Welcome back to another episode of Unhinged Bookish Thoughts with Liz and Carrie. Today we got to sit down and talk to Cleo Evans. They write some of our most favorite books. The author of our hearts, truly a comfort author for us. And I've got a couple of their books right here. I have Broken Beginnings and
Stolen Chances.
Stolen Chances.
Mine are on their way.
Imagine Hidden Roots right here as well. It is almost here. But yeah, we got to sit down and talk with Cleo, and it was incredible. I fear I babbled, and I couldn't shut the fuck up at all, and that's okay. They accepted me with open arms.
We vibed. We all were good.
I knocked down my ring light, and I hit my knee on my water bottle before we started recording. That's how nervous I was.
We were so nervous. We just sat here and fidgeted the whole time. It was great.
So, Cleo, for anybody that is watching, most of our listeners will know exactly who you are because they tend to love the same books that we love. But for any new listeners or maybe new readers to you, could you introduce yourself a little bit for us?
Yes. I am Cleo Evans, and I write monster romance, and I also write small town romance suspense. All of my books across the board are very kinky. A lot of the times they're polyamorous. Most of them are queer. I have like a couple of like token straight books. But yeah, so I write very, very spicy romance.
I'm trying to think of, I think there's only one straight book I've read by you. Like,
They do exist.
They exist. And I'm like going down the list of all the ones I've read. I'm like, I think I've only read one straight one. I was like, no, that's, nope, not that one.
I think Citrus Cove, which is a small town romance series that just finished, their first book and the third book, both of those are MF relationships. And then the only other MF romance that I've written was in, I think, Creature Cafe, but they're bisexual. So
Imagine Hidden Roots is also here.
I love it.
It's coming. I'm so excited for the prints.
Yeah.
You have your own shelf right next to me. So I just reached over. But I also ordered a Citrus Cove crew neck because I didn't know that you did merch on your website, and I was so hoping it was going to get here, but it's going to be here tomorrow.
Oh my god.
But so close. We were so close.
I love it.
But I would say the first book that I read of yours was Not So Kind Regards. And
that was our intro to Omegaverse.
That's a great intro.
It was so much fun.
It was hilarious.
Stayed up all night reading it. I was like, this is the most incredible thing I have read. And yeah, so I read Not So Kind Regards, and then I did end up reading Not So Truly Yours. And I was like, I'm having the absolute time of my life. Like, this is incredible. And I will say, anytime we have an author on, I always get like super sappy and emotional because that's just the type of person I am.
That's
it wouldn't be me. Yeah, it wouldn't be me if I didn't make it like super weird. But I have said this in so many of my reviews, but I feel like when I'm reading your romances, I feel like so safe and seen, especially when I'm like trying to explore like some of the kinkier stuff, like you said. I'm just like, this is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I need. And it's so good. It is so good.
Thank you.
And like, I'm so sorry. I have been blowing up your notifications probably in the last 2 weeks. And I was like, my God, Carrie, you need to calm down. But
never.
I'm not kidding. Hidden Roots like truly changed something in me. I don't know what happened. But I have not been able to shut the hell up about Hidden Roots.
Since you read it as the arc, and I'm like, shut up, I can't get it yet. Okay, I need you to knock it off. I gotta wait until Tuesday when it releases.
I loved writing that book so much, and I think that part of it was like waiting for Hunter and Emma, because like so many people, and also I guess spoiler alert for a lot of people that maybe listening if you haven't read the series, but a lot of people like from early on in Broken Beginnings were like, okay, when are we getting Hunter and Emma? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna make you wait, like obviously.
Duh.
For multiple reasons, but I love them both so much. And I think that writing Emma, like some of her family dynamics and stuff, and a lot of like the like hurt with the past that she has, I can like relate to. And so I think that pouring some of those things into those characters, I love them so much.
And I think too, what was really fun about Citrus Cove was you're like falling in love and you're like exploring these like kinky dynamics, and then people are just getting murdered, and you're just like, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What's happening? Well, and I think we said recently that we're like, Cleo just writes books for us, because I only recently figured out that I love romantic suspense, which you think would be very obvious. I love thrillers. I started my reading like journey with thrillers, and then I was like, oh, what's this romance thing? And then I realized that you can put them together and it's an entire genre. And so when we found out you were coming out with it, we're like, yes, please.
I love romantic suspense so much. It is one of my favorite genres. Catherine Cowles, I love her books. I don't know if you've read any of
them. I think I'm gonna read her in April. I think that's part of my like list I'm gonna have.
So good. Every single book that I've read by her has made me cry. Like just like sob.
It's for you.
And it's like I know they're gonna get a happy ending, but like it doesn't matter. It's like I'm in it for the journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love romantic suspense, and I have some other stuff that I'm planning. Because I definitely want to write more small town romance suspense.
I think I also loved too that like within Citrus Cove, I loved like the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like it felt like very welcoming, and I was like, I love this. Like
I want a small town like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So getting to see that, it almost kind of gives you hope of like what you want out in the world too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me getting like super like in deep, but it's just I did think that was like a really nice touch that I also clung on to.
I like Donnie.
Oh my god,
I love Donnie. I love Donnie. I would die for Donnie.
I love him so much. Yeah, I think you know, I grew up in Texas and lived in Texas my entire life, literally up until January of this year, and I moved up to Illinois. And I love so many things about Texas, but there's so many things about it too that are just like rough for a lot of people. And especially if like you're queer or like fall in any sort of spectrum outside of like a cishet white man, then it's like it's a struggle. And I think that part of like wanting to write those books was also, I think, kind of like healing like myself in a way of like, okay, I wish that, you know, I could have a small town in Texas that was more welcoming and more like for people that I love.
Yeah.
Like that. So
Yeah. As someone that actively lives in a town that doesn't even have like a grocery store or anything like that, like these are the type of books that I'm like, yeah, I see myself in them and I feel so comfortable. And I keep saying safe, but like truly that is exactly how I feel no matter what I'm reading, whether it's like monster smut from you or anything like that. But I do want to ask you, how do you like separate yourself from your romantic suspense and then diving into your monster smut? How do you like switch
It's
and wear
everywhere.
those two hats?
So it's been so this year's been very interesting for me because this is a contemporary year for me. I don't have any monster romance releasing this year. I may end up releasing a couple of Creature Cafe novellas at the end of the year, but I'm not sure yet. Because I'm working on something else right now, so I'm going to see like once I'm on the other side what that looks like. But so it's been interesting, kind of like switching back and forth. But I love monster romance. That's where I started, and when I started writing the Creature Cafe series, those books were very much like at the time I was learning so much about myself, and so I wanted to write books also as I was exploring like different kinks and like the BDSM community and different things like that. And so, but at the time, I feel like my mindset has changed so much, like, since I first started, just because, like, when I first started, it was like, oh, I'm writing this thing and it's really exciting. And like, oh my God, it's a dragon with like a monster dick and he's like gonna have temperature play in his tail because like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, a lot of like when I sit down to write monster romance, it's like there's no rules. So I can do whatever I want. But I feel like in writing, like switching gears and writing in a more contemporary, like small town setting has like forced me to kind of hunker down as a writer and figure out, okay, what are my strengths? What are my
Mm-hmm.
weaknesses and stuff? And so I don't know, switching gears has been interesting. I will say the first like when I was doing Broken Beginnings, I was like, oh my God, what do I do in these sex scenes? There's no monster things happening. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to like think about how these things work again because it's not the same. And I know that I think the next time I dive into a monster romance, it'll be the opposite, where it'll be like, oh my God, oh yeah, I can do, all of these crazy things again. But yeah, it's fun. I think it also like balances each other out for me creatively. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I imagine too with like the monster smut, because you are creating like your own new like world, that kind of thing. I imagine that can be incredibly rewarding, but equally as draining as well,
yeah,
which probably sounds wild to some people that don't enjoy monster smut. They're probably like, what do you mean? How is that draining? But there's like so much that goes into it. There is so
yeah,
much detail.
there is. And it's also, it's such like it's little things. And I think that like when I'm writing monster romance, I feel like what I've also found the more that I've written contemporary and like comparing it to like how I think about monster romance is also like comes down to like tropes and stuff too. It's like, well, if I'm writing monster romance, I want them to be fated mates. I
Mm-hmm.
love fated mates.
Mhm.
I want there to be insta lust. I want them to there to be like be able to like smell each other because they're like, they're monsters and it's like, oh yeah, my human's definitely turned on even though I'm acting like whatever.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think there's a lot of aspects of it. And then it's like you get into contemporary romance and it's like we're back in a real world setting.
Yeah.
Um, but I love both of them equally so much.
I think, Liz, you had mentioned last year in June we were doing kind of we were trying to promote like
Mhm.
LGBTQ plus books and that kind of thing. And we were talking about your books, that kind of thing, and Cosmic Kiss was
I love
something
that.
that unlocked something in Liz.
I
Like,
I love that book so much. I talk about it all the time. All the
mm-hmm.
time. I'm like, oh, you haven't read that? You need to read it. You need to read it. Just read it. Why? Well, because it's two aliens that are obsessed with a woman that don't know
Yes.
anything about humans, and so they have to research it. It's like
Yeah.
we said this in one of our most recent podcasts too, and I said if I have a niche, it's creatures that don't understand humans that
Yes.
become obsessed with humans. I was like, that is my niche. And that is
Yeah.
what Cosmic Kids is, and that's why I love it so much. It's just so good.
I love writing monsters or aliens that like go the extra mile of like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
really don't know what a sneeze is, but I'm gonna find out,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm going
Ah,
to like
Yes.
figure out this thing about you and do everything I can to know about it. And yeah, I love that too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good niche.
It's
yeah.
such a good niche. It's my favorite.
She
Love it.
loves the element of like a golden retriever vibe type
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
yeah. So, did you know this is one of those, basic questions, but I am curious, did you always want to be an author or did you stumble upon this or
I definitely always wanted to be an author. I remember like when I was a kid being like, I'm gonna be an author one day or I'm gonna write books one day. And then it never really like I wrote a lot when I was like a lot younger. But then like when COVID hit, I feel like when COVID hit, a lot of people rediscovered things about themselves and
yeah.
really like dove into either creative things or like outlets that kind of have changed their life because I feel like so many people have found like different passions because like we were all home and in my case like I was working in a retail environment so I was like just handling the public and
Yeah.
handling all the chaos of being out in the world and during that time and so I had a friend that was a writer and she encouraged me to write. And then I lost my grandfather and I wanted to like have an escape. And so I started writing the Creature Cafe books, and it's kind of wild in a way that I feel like it's come full circle, and that like I did always want to be an author, and then for it to actually happen and to also have it be from a project that I wrote while I was grieving is like kind of wild. Also, like Little Slices of Hell being the project that I wrote while I was grieving is questionable, but you know that's like how I disassociated. So
You know what?
Yes.
It's fine. We all
Don't be
disassociate
Teresa.
and grieve in our own way.
Yes.
It's perfectly fine. If you had a conversation with your younger self, because if they were like, yes, I want to be an author when I grow up, if you had a conversation with your younger self now and said, these are the books that I've written, how do you think your younger self would respond?
I think I would be so excited.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also probably be so shocked because
Yeah.
when I was younger, I was the kid that like I was always reading like well above my grade level, and like in fourth grade, like I remember like reading Aragon and like loving it and being inspired because like he was a really young author. And then like I don't know, I think that I would be really proud and excited, but also like monsters.
Really?
Monsters, but also like vampires. Twilight, like I was so into Twilight, so I feel
Yeah.
like it's
Yes.
just like a smidge more, you know, into a wilder direction.
They're adjacent, right?
Yeah.
They're just right
Yeah.
there. So, yeah, makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you were Team Jacob, like Monsters really could be for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
don't knock it till you try it.
Or like
Mhm.
Beauty and the Beast. Like
Yes.
how did they give us Beauty and the Beast, not expect everyone to want to fuck monsters? I mean, that's the good question. So
Because
Mhm.
all of us loved the Beast, and when he
Mhm.
turned into his human form, we all were kind of like, shit, wait,
Why?
could be. What
Yeah.
if we change this back?
Let's rewind and just leave him there. Thank you.
Right.
So, with, writing being your passion and that kind of thing, how do you balance it all? Because it is obviously, your job, that kind of thing, something like a labor of love, if you will. But how do you manage keeping that like spark and love alive when it is also your job?
I think that some of it comes from letting myself have projects that are really just for me. So like the perfect gift, a Christmas cuckolding novella, was my like passion project last year. But I was like, I have been working really hard on like all of these other projects that I absolutely love. But I like woke up one morning and I was like, Christmas cuckolding sounds like something that needs to happen, and so I'm gonna do it. And I had two friends in a group chat that literally in the span of like 2 hours, one of them came back like they were like had like a meeting or something, and I already had the blurb written, a pre-order up, the cover secured from like Emily Wittig because she had a pre-made that I was like, I love this. And so like I messaged her and I was like, I'm gonna do this thing. And so sometimes I do think for me it's like letting myself be a little bit impulsive for the greater good. And then also
Yes.
still balancing that with like, okay, these are the projects I do have planned that I am also really excited for. But it is really, I love writing. I feel really, really lucky that I get to do this full time. It's something that brings me so much joy. I think that really for me, the balance comes into figuring out how to balance all the other stuff that comes with being an author. Because I feel like writing is really like maybe 20% of the job. And then it's, it's marketing, it's figuring out social media, it's keeping up with newsletters and like website fulfillment and all of the other stuff, which is great. But it is, you do wear multiple hats. And so figuring out how to do all of that too
Mm-hmm.
can be a lot, but I love it. I really do. And I will say, like when I first started, I think I was pretty bad about having work-life balance because it was like, oh, I am now working for myself, so I can work 16 hours a day, and that's totally fine. And so it's taken a while to figure out how to find some balance and like, okay, yes, I can still do these things that I love, but I can also like give myself rest because rest is important. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a good journey.
Yeah. But I think that's so important what you said about giving yourself rest. I think especially too when part of this is marketing and being, you know, on social media and stuff like that. There are so many good sides to social media and so many bad sides. And I also think when, and just me talking from like a reader's standpoint, I think when you read romance, that kind of thing, you can often be like the butt of the joke, if you will. So I definitely think that it's super important for readers and authors to definitely take safe time away from their phones and stuff like that. So yeah, it gets heavy out there in on social media and in the real world. And I don't know. I think that your books give people like a really good escape and they can feel seen in what you're writing and creating. And the perfect gift, though, when you brought that up, I was like, this is the perfect segue because I have that in caps letters on my notes that I wanted to talk about it. Whoa. Yeah. Wow. My face is red.
So I am about to be working on the second one,
Oh.
The Perfect Escape. And
Wait, do we get a Theo and Maddie audiobook with that again too?
That's the plan.
Oh yes.
Is this an exclusive?
I literally on Sunday I'm going on an adventure with someone and we're going to an escape room so I can do like in-person research. And I'm so excited because I told him I was like, I'm going to have fun with you when we do this, but also I'm like, my kink brain is going to be going. So I'm so sorry in advance if I'm randomly like, oh yeah, we could totally hide a dildo in this treasure chest that you have to have. Like, just roll with it. Just go with it.
My soul just left my body. Just left my body.
But I'm so excited because that's going to be set in an escape room, and I feel like the four of them, that's going to be a fun adventure. But yeah, I literally woke up one morning because, okay, so I'm not like a huge holiday person, but I love writing like holiday romance books. I don't know because a lot of the like material that we've had like lends itself to being spicy, like "Oh come all you faithful," like there's like so many different puns that you can like write into things. And yeah, so for that I was like, Christmas cuckolding, like no one asked me for this, but
you
It's
delivered.
It is what the world needed.
It was what we needed. It was our gift. You gifted the world with that book. It was fantastic.
And then the audiobook, oh my god, I was dying while listening to that for the first time because I was like, oh my god, because like I'll write something and then I forget what I write because I'm like moving on to a different project. And so usually by the time I listen to an audiobook, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, oh yeah, I did do that. And then I was like sitting and listening, I'm like, oh my god.
You're like, wow, that was hot.
Yeah.
Wait, who wrote this? This is so good. I was actively, when I listened to it, I was actively wrapping gifts for my family, and I don't realize how deaf I am because I have my headphones on, and my partner was like, I can hear what you're listening to. But he also was like, I think I want to get into reading. I was like, this is so good, right?
Yes.
I love that.
So good. It was so good. Yeah, but you also mentioned too something that I'd like to touch base on, and you know how you're always moving forward onto kind of like the next story, that kind of thing. Do you give yourself space to say goodbye to your characters, or do you just kind of hold them tight and move on? Or
it's a mix. I feel like when I first started, I was not good about taking time to celebrate like wins and celebrate like, oh, I completed a book. That's something that like I should celebrate. But the longer I've done this and also the better I've gotten about like taking a moment to really like appreciate what I get to do. Yes. So like now it's like once I finish a book, I'll usually take a couple weeks off from writing. I'll probably work on a bunch of other things, but that'll give me time to kind of be like, okay, like I got to do this thing and I love these characters, and then like yeah, move on into the next thing. I do think that like having ADHD and like hyperfixating on my stories also lends me into being like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready for the next thing.
Finish next one.
I do have characters though that will always stick with me, like the barista. Like as long as I live, he will forever be one of my favorite characters. Inferna, from Not So Kind Regards. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some characters that it's like, of course I love all my characters. They're like weird children that live in my brain. They're not children, but they're like beings that I've created.
They're
Like,
like split
I don't know.
personalities.
Yes, exactly.
They're just like a collection.
Yeah.
It's like you have a room in there and they're all just like hanging out, and then they're just like chilling, and they're just like, hey, what's up? And sometimes they like open the door and they like peek in. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
let's talk.
Yes. But there are like a few of them, like a handful that I'm like, oh yeah, this character in particular I just love. Like, and not to say that I don't love all the others, because again I do, but like the barista, Inferna, Mort, I will always love Mort. It's because he's really twisted. And he's from Doves and Demons. And it's like he's a plague doctor.
Yeah.
It's not.
What?
What's not to love?
Yeah. I love Hunter. I think probably from Citrus Cove. I feel like Sammy for me though is like I just love him. I also feel like he's the type of man that I'm like he can be trained to do good things. He learns well.
He's a good puppy.
Yeah.
He would be a good puppy. Yes. It's great. Also, I'm glad that you said that they live up there, because whenever I make that reference, and I've had this conversation with other authors, they look at me like I've gone insane.
No, I get
They're
it.
like,
I really
I'm
do.
like, no, they live there. Like, you know how many times I'm just doing something, and Lily's like, what if I murdered someone? And I'm like, I'm trying to work, ma'am. And she's like, okay, but listen, they deserve to die. Can I just stab them? And I'm like, not right now.
So on the other side of things, with you being a writer, do you have time and like space and like mental capacity to read? Are you reading?
I do between projects. So I'm really excited because I am finishing up Lasso Lovebirds in the next few days, which is part of the Rainbow Ranch series with M.A. Wardell, Max Walker, and Ashley Bennett. And I'm so excited for that. But I'm excited because I'm about to be on like a little bit of a break, and there's some books I really want to read. I really want to read Deep End by Allie Hazelwood.
And then you have to listen to our podcast episode after you're done.
Okay. I need to read it. I also started Keep Me by Sarah Kate, and am loving it. My heart hurts for Killian. Like halfway through it, I'm like, okay, I know this is gonna hurt at some point. I don't know when, but I feel like I'm gonna end up crying at some point in this book.
I just feel like you're in my head, because
that's what I was thinking too. I was like, and Cleo is in Carrie's head.
Yeah, we just read Deep End, and then I just went on a full Sarah Kate binge about a couple weeks ago. I ate all that shit up. Oh my god.
Yes, you did.
So good.
So good.
And I love this. I love it so much. Is there a genre that you might not necessarily ever publish or whatever? Is there a genre that you would love to give a shot at?
I feel like dark romantic comedy. I could get into that. And then like I don't think I would ever publish this, but I would love to write some like YA fantasy. And I think some of that comes from like those are the books that a lot of the times I'll read. Like I love reading romance, and like I'm about to be diving into some amazing romance books, but like the Clockwork Angel series by Cassandra Clare. Those books still, I love them. I'll reread them like every few years. And I think there's some like books that are like kind of in like YA categories that I'm like, yeah, I can get into that. But then I'm like, but what would I do without the spice?
How would I fade to black instead of using whips and chains?
Exactly.
I am a huge spicy reader, but there are like several YA series that I will like cherish forever. One was the Iron Face series by Julie Kagaway. I love that. They're like not even brushing hands, and I'm like, my heart is racing, and I'm just like, this is incredible.
Yearning.
And, yes. And then of course, I have like my whole arsenal of characters that get pegged, and you know what I mean? So like I am I truly am all over the map, and I love it. I love it when people are also the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about Hidden Roots so that way this isn't so hard, but if Hidden Roots had a theme song,
Yeah.
what would it be?
I feel like I should look at my playlist because I feel like She's the Devil by Teddy Swims.
Oh,
I listened to that song a lot while I was writing that book. And really just any of his music, I listened like nonstop while I was writing.
Yeah. Teddy Swims was deep in my playlist because I read when I read I listen to music. And Hammer to the Heart, for some reason, I just kept playing that over and over when I was reading Broken Beginnings. I don't know why. I just was like, this is the ultimate like connection right now. I was just I was living for it.
His voice is so good. I listened to him a lot, and then recently I've been on an Orville Peck kick, which checks out given that I'm writing Lots of Lovebirds. But yeah,
that hits very much. I would also, if you can, I know you've been sharing about Mine, which comes out May 20th. Is that correct? Did I get that right? Oh, I will remember things for you. I'm gonna tell you what.
You don't remember anything else, but you're like
here, but I will remember something for you. Can you share anything, or you don't have to? But
no, I'm so excited for this book. I am convinced, and like spice is subjective because I know that like everyone has different things that they're like, yes, this is spicy, or yes, this isn't spicy. However, I do feel like this is the spiciest book I've ever written. I will also say that partially this book was born from me seeing Baby Girl and being really upset. Like,
yes.
Yeah, I saw that movie, and listen, the actors were great. This is not a knock against the actors, but I was really upset by the kink representation in that movie. And the ending also upset me, and so I was like really wanting a like age gap romance where she's older, and like that power dynamic that comes into play because I think that can be so phenomenal, and so I loved writing these two characters because she is perfect. She has been, a record label CEO. She is someone that has her shit together. She knows exactly what she wants, but she also is someone that comes from a background of like being surrounded by purity culture and like, escaping like, she has like religious trauma and always having the pressure of like she does have to be perfect all of the time. And having a relationship with an ex-husband that's like now an ex-husband but that failed and like had like bad things with that and like hasn't experienced like pleasure in a way that has been like something that she actually craves. And then he is a singer-songwriter that like he knows the BDSM community. He knows how to be a dom. He knows what consent is, which was like part of my issue with Baby Girl.
We love consent.
Yeah, like he knows what he's doing. And I really wanted to write a dynamic where it's like their jobs are part of that power exchange dynamic because like she is a record label CEO and she is someone that makes moves in the industry and he's like an up and coming singer-songwriter that like writes his own music and like he's building his career and stuff and so like they should not be together. Period. Like full stop, they should not, but the chemistry between them and then their dynamics and stuff it gives into what they got going on.
I think I also love like the role reversal of age gap when like the woman is older. I love to start seeing that a little more. Holly June Smith, she is actually getting ready to publish a book where it's an age gap where the woman is older.
Love that.
And I was like, you know what? Hell yeah.
I need more of it.
Yeah, there's not enough of it. There's really not. It's always the guy. And I think, Carrie and I have talked a lot about me when I was writing In the Shadows. And it's like, why is it always the guy that gets like the primary thing? Like they're always the older ones, the successful billionaires. It's always the man and it's never the woman. And so I love that there are more people coming out with the like females being in charge, them being like the primary and all the things.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's also like I mean, there are a lot of women that are in those positions where it's like they are in positions of power and they are handling things that are like, you know, dealing with how the world views them or treats them differently because of that. And then being able to have a man that is secure enough in himself that he's like, oh yeah, I can get down with this. It doesn't feel like, a woman making more money than him or like being in more of a position of power than him in those ways, like threatens him. And I think that's hot.
Yeah, very hot.
And I think that also kind of bleeds in with like a lot of the characters that you have too, is it's like equal sides to both of them. Even like when they're like giving away their power per se in a kinky sense, they still very much are like respective and all that with each other, and I love that. I eat that shit up in a way that I can't even describe. But I will talk about Baby Girl.
Yes.
You can't tell me Antonio Banderas isn't putting it down.
That's what I'm saying too. Like, what on earth?
My partner and I were watching that. We were like, everybody keeps like raving about this, and I was like, let's do it,
Yeah.
I was that kid that was like watching 50 Shades of Grey way back when, and I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's see if Baby Girl is, kinky.
Yeah.
And I just was like, what do you mean? What's happening here?
I was so upset by the movie. There were parts of it that I'm like, okay, yes, that's hot. But then like you can't tell me that she was like, I think what, 50, right, in the movie?
Yeah.
She's a CEO. And to become a CEO, you have to go through so many courses, like HR training, communication. You got to know what you're doing. And you cannot, her communication was so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have been with this man, him, also this very sexy man for so long. And this is like, whatever. I could go on. Literally, I got out of that movie and I went and saw it with a friend. And he was like, so we did Nosferatu and Baby Girl viewing back to back. And he was like, Nosferatu is great. I hated the other one. And I was like, what?
But like also Nosferatu, I was like, damn, this shit's kinky too. I was like,
no.
There was a movie though, when I went and saw that, I'm going off script, but it started and restopped like 6 different times in the point of the movie where she is like having a seizure, and I was like, is this part of it? Like, is this an interactive showing right now? It was crazy. Oh no. But yeah, yeah.
The ending of that movie, the ending shot of them together was beautiful.
It was art.
It was art.
It truly was. That is burned in my brain.
Same. I don't think I should have seen those movies back to back, though. I think that going from that into Baby Girl didn't help anything.
A very crazy marathon to go on, but just this very moving ending shot to,
yeah.
all that Baby Girl is.
Yeah.
But
well, and I also I think what I wanted from that movie is for it to be like Secretary, which I don't know if either one of you have seen Secretary, but that movie is a very like kinky movie from I think it's like the early 2000s. And I'm trying to remember the actors' names, but it's like I would recommend watching that. There are still some things that are like there's a few things about it that are outdated, but it is so kinky and spicy, and it's done in a way that is at least more like respectful to the like what it actually is BDSM, and not, oh my god, there's something wrong with people because they're into this thing, which is like not the representation I want to be seeing in the media right now.
That's the one with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yes.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. That one was really hot.
Yeah.
I had no business watching that when it was out, because
you were like, what, 10 when that came out?
But you bet. I can appreciate it now as an adult, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, kink is very like, I think kink is an incredibly fun thing to explore, especially when you like find what works for you. And I think your books work for me, not in like a weird way, but I don't know. That sounded so weird, but yeah, I don't know. I
Carrie
think
has
it's
to make it weird.
I'm so sorry for how
Like,
I
you're
oh
worded
my
that.
god, every episode.
So good.
Yeah, it's at least I haven't made some weird obscene hand gesture like said coming a bunch of times, because I sometimes do that a lot
I mean,
too.
I don't think you've said coming once this entire time until
There
now,
it
which
is.
is shocking.
There you go. You can clip that one.
Just you saying, I just need you to keep saying it over and over again now, so I can just clip that. That's gonna be the end of the year. It's just every episode that you say the word coming. It's just gonna be like coming.
Our 2025 wrap up is just me
It's
saying
just
coming.
Carrie saying it, or are you doing like weird hand motions?
I am curious. You know, we talk about mine that's coming out. Do you have any events that you would like to kind of plug, or what do you got going on this year?
So I am going to a Polycon. I leave in a little over a week. I'm so excited for a Polycon. And then I'm doing Villains and Vixens in Dallas. Yes. in September, right? Yeah, in September.
Yes.
And then Book Harvest in October in Chicago. I'm so excited for all three of those. It'll be
So
great.
excited. This is a true test of what I will be like when I see you
No,
in
it's
person.
not. We're not gonna have words when we actually like physically are interacting. Okay, we're both gonna be like, hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
honestly, I might just yell from across the hall at Villains and Vixens and just be like,
Do it. Yeah.
hey.
I'll be
I'm
like,
gonna stand up at my table and just wave.
I am the type of person, though, that I am incredibly introverted, like out in the real world, and I get really red, and you can like physically see when I'm fighting for my life a little bit.
yeah, same.
So yeah, so excited, so excited.
So excited.
Listen, no worries. Anytime someone's cheeks like flush, I'm like, oh, I'm right there with you.
We're right there. Right there.
I am a pale-skinned person as well, so it's like I am doomed from the very start.
Yes.
But I guess the last, like, we'll have a couple last fun questions. I say they're fun. I would love to know, do you have like a writing ritual? Do you have like, when you sit down, do you have your snack, your drink, that kind of thing?
I think mostly I usually just put on music, and I usually move between writing at my desk and writing on the couch, and it's like I go back and forth. Like I'm always like getting up and moving around. I also do a lot of dictation. That has been something that the more I've gotten into has really helped me, just because sometimes my wrist has issues, and so I try to like make sure I'm not just sitting and writing for a few hours. But as far as like rituals go, it's really like in my perfect world, I get to write from, 9 a.m. to noon, and that's like ideal. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But I feel like mornings for me usually work best, or like evenings. Those seem to be when I find like a good pocket of like, okay, like I'm feeling the writing inspiration.
Do you have any advice for any aspiring authors out there?
Please find a group chat before you post things online.
Ooh.
My biggest one. Because I feel like I see so many people nowadays like get online and post things with their whole chest, and then they end up burning themselves out of the community, and it's like, just text your friends, my dude. And then as far as like actual writing advice, I would just stay away from AI, please.
Please.
And if you're writing something that's outside of your worldview, make sure you're doing your research. Make sure that your, sensitivity readers are important. And that, when it comes to like kink and stuff, if you're writing something that you haven't experienced or you aren't familiar with, just make sure you're doing your research, and don't be afraid to ask people questions. I know that I have been lucky in a lot of ways, like in my experience with the BDSM community, because I had someone that was like kind of like someone that's been in the community for a really long time that like took me under their wing, like right as I was starting to write Creature Cafe. And I think that really helped me in a lot of my writing, because I feel like I've been able to hopefully at least bring some authenticity to like the way that I write the things that I do. And also, I just love it. Like, side note, I just love kink. I love talking about it. I will talk about it all day long. It's my favorite thing. I think that it's so much fun to write. But yeah, I would just I would just say, like, make sure you're doing your research and be respectful.
Yeah.
Don't post things online that are insane, because I feel like
Yeah.
that's happened so much recently, especially threads. My God.
Yeah, and I think from a reader standpoint too, like when you were talking about doing your research and like being respectful, I think when you're reading kinky stuff too, especially, you do a really great job, and other authors that I read that write kinky or BDSM, trigger warnings are a big thing, always plugging that kind of thing. And I always just tell other readers, like, if you don't know what it is, maybe research it before you read it, or kind of dive into the book, but just kind of like be prepared for something that you're not used to. Because it's hard. As a reader, it's sometimes hard to see kinky stuff get shamed and put down when people just don't understand it,
Yes.
So it's like, no, guys, don't do that. But anyway, I've babbled. I'm so sorry I babble sometimes, but
No, we
yeah.
often have conversations about people like reading a book that they probably wouldn't be comfortable with just based on the trigger warnings, and then they're like, this was terrible, disgusting, all of these things. We're like, but that's not like your type of book. Like, you've openly admitted, like, you pretty much just skipped the trigger warnings and said, it's whatever, throw it in the trash. And then you get upset that the things that you're reading in it are stuff that you don't like. It's like, that's because you didn't read what you're supposed to.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, and that's, authors sometimes, I feel like we all miss things sometimes, or it's like, may have needed to be added or whatever, but just, I think there's also like the line of like taking feedback and making sure that like as authors we're doing what we can to like, okay, we are including all the trigger warnings, or if we miss something, you're taking that feedback, but then also still keeping that separation of like, I know that there's been a lot of discourse recently about authors needing to take reviews as feedback, and it's like those are for readers. Like, and like when I'm, because like I read books, like, I have like, I'm a mood reader, and I always like, anytime I have friends that are like get upset or like, will vent about something that they saw about their book, I'm like, dude, listen, well, like, I am a mood reader and I love you, but I have definitely like stopped reading your book because I wanted to drink coffee or something, and then didn't pick it back up, and it has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
I still love you so much. It is literally because I'm a mood reader, and that's like, you have to remember people have lives.
Yes.
And like, they're going to do their thing, and sometimes it may not be for them, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. One of my favorite books last year, I had to reread like twice because I could not get into it. And then finally, once my mood was like, yeah, girl, pop off, I was like, holy shit, this is great,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many levels with the bookstagram and book talk and, opinions and stuff like that. And I think it's great that we finally have a way to kind of like bridge the gap for readers to kind of interact, with authors and like have that. But sometimes it's just not always so fun. You guys, I'm sure, get it. I mean, you're both authors and stuff like that, but yeah, it is fun. And I truly am like really grateful that you came on and talked with us. At the end of last year, Liz and I were incredibly like,
we manifested
down.
So many things. We're like,
and
Cleo.
we both said, who would we want? And we both said Cleo. I was like, they would bring life to us, and it's all I could think about for weeks. So this is great, and this is it. Our last episode. No, I'm kidding. This is where
we have reached the peak of our career as podcast hosts. We're done now. Cleo Evans has been on the podcast.
I love it. I thank you for having me on. I love doing podcasts. I love talking to people. I think they're so fun. Also, just like great conversations. So
it's so fun. Yeah. And I'm sure you'll hear us talking about you so much more. We'll probably have Theo and Maddie on again. And if they get the chance to work with you again, we will definitely be talking about it. So, but we're really excited to see you in Dallas and to keep reading all of the amazing kinky stuff that you put out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you again, seriously, so much for doing this.
Very much. This is so much fun. Oh, thank you again, Cleo, for coming on to the podcast today with us. It was amazing. We appreciate you for joining us. We love again, we could gush about Cleo Evans nonstop all day because they are one of our favorites. So go check out all their books. We believe all of them are on Kindle Unlimited, and as I've said previously, you can find a lot of their books on their website. But as always, remember to read what you want and don't be a dick.